Welcome to Unorganized Thought, the podcast where sometimes we have no friends.
Sometimes we get haunted by people from the prequels. People from the prequels. It's a good name for something.
Yeah. That only makes sense if we end up using that intro, and now we have to.
Well, I always thought we were going to.
Okay, cool. Hopefully it pans out. Hopefully it cuts together well. Okay. So this week, Star Wars happened recently.
You're in the wake of it, as someone might say.
And so, it's quite the movie to take in and to.
Wait, who are you?
Oh, I'm Aidan, Akhtar brother number 2.
And I'm number 1.
What the hell was that?
I'm Kieran, and I don't know where my name is.
Oh, well, where do you want it to be? Oh, there it is. Good. Well, mine's just, wherever.
Wherever you feel like putting it.
Around. Wherever it looks good. And so, I was just saying that, we did our review of Star Wars. That was kind of the only thing that came out post-Star Wars. And so we kind of wanted to dive into it a little bit more, because that was our, spoiler-free review. And like we said in that, our opinions have probably changed or, strengthened, weakened, however it...
Bit of both,
yeah. It's quite the movie to go through. There was so much behind the scenes, so much just I don't know. It's kind of a mess. It's kind of just generally how it's described, and enjoying it always comes with a grain of salt, which is not how you should have to watch a movie.
Yeah, that's fair.
But anyways,
we'll probably have another podcast about it too, because I think I'm gonna go see it again. I think Liam's seeing it.
Okay.
And maybe seeing it with him, and so then we'll have a friend to talk about it with.
Mm-hmm.
And I know he'll have. I'm interested to see what he has to say about it.
Yeah.
And honestly, just having another person outside of us to kind of be here. To see what they have to say.
And to make things less awkward.
Yeah.
The variety definitely is helpful in that respect.
Yeah, and we want our own show.
But so I don't know. I kind of wanted to start by going. The hell was that?
You're doing the intro from 2 weeks ago.
I'm fidgety.
Okay.
Quit touching me. See, this is why we need another person. You just reached over and touched my hand.
Chill, man.
Okay. Anyways, I just kind of wanted to sort of go over some of the things that we touched on in the spoiler review, except kind of maybe go more into depth.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things that I liked.
Here's a good thing to go before that is, how have your feelings changed since then? What would you kind of say about the movie now?
So I'd say...
Would you change your rating?
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, I think I would.
Interesting.
My previous rating was somewhat based off of,
Well, and you've seen it twice now.
Yeah, and I've seen it twice now, and so, my previous rating was based somewhat on blissful ignorance and hope.
Yeah.
And kind of just, the closure that I felt after the movie, since The Last Jedi was such a resounding disappointment to me personally.
Yeah.
And so for this to close the story at all was just kind of healthy for me in my life.
Yeah.
And so, that was kind of like I said in that, my biased and heart answer, the answer of my heart. But, looking at it as a movie, it has a lot of problems and has a lot of things that as a movie, without knowing any of the behind the scenes stuff, or not comparing it, or putting it next to The Last Jedi, and how it's different and what it changes from the trilogy. It's not it's a very kind of broken movie.
I suppose that's actually kind of an interesting take that I've not thought about, is I'm sure that there are people out there like this that are just the most baseline moviegoer that you could get. You know, it was somebody that just goes to the movies, takes what they're given, goes, okay, now I'll go see the next one in 2 years. And so for them, watching this trilogy, I can imagine, would just probably seem pretty terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not something I've thought of before. And I mean, knowing what's going on behind the scenes, or some of, obviously you don't know all because it's crazy.
Yeah.
But like, I think that gives you some insight, and like you said, it helps you appreciate this last one a lot more. And then again, like, it's not gonna go there. Never mind. But just like with the second movie, just feelings on that. But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a trilogy, I could see how people see it as a mess.
Yeah.
Especially taking it as a trilogy and not looking at it as J.J. Abrams' 2 films and Rian Johnson's 1.
Yeah. Because that's just what it comes down to.
I feel like that's really kind of how you have to look at it.
It's not a coherent story.
No.
And the only, like, some of the only things that make this movie good are based on the fact that the trilogy is broken and the last movie was so different.
Well, and part of the things that
I know like,
we liked a lot, and some of the things that we liked the most, is undoing the last movie.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of a strange dynamic to have. And I don't know where I was going. I had an idea. Keep going.
Well, yeah, it's that's kind of one of the things I have. Well, anyways, I just going back to how my rating may have changed.
Yeah.
I gave it an 8,
Mhm.
which is like a very very rating considering how kind of like.
Then again, you look at the fan score on various rating critic sites.
Mhm.
I won't name any because I've got my issues with quite a few of them.
Mhm.
But you look at them, and again, it's the opposite of the last movie, where the critics hate it, the fans like it a lot. The fan score is like 86 on one of the fruit-related ones, which I refuse to name. But, like, and that, like, I've got my whole own beef with those things that will be a podcast for another day. But, like, just the disparity there is just kind of mind-boggling, you know? And
Yeah.
so, like, my point of all of this is just that you giving it an 8 isn't outlandish,
Yeah.
you know, because the audience score in a lot of cases is 8 and higher.
Yeah. And so like the only I would only bump it down like 1 or 2 notches maximum. Like my absolutely critical only sort of a view of it would be like what you said initially, a 6 to a 7.
Yeah,
and so I think that maybe the true sort of a balanced like grade Jedi score is a 7.
I'm thinking, and so that's interesting that you've gone down, because the more I've sat with it, and I do really think I need to see it again to have like a proper feelings about it.
Mm-hmm.
But as I've sat with it and kind of made my peace with some of the things, I felt myself kind of liking it more and gradually going up. And so like I would definitely, and like I think even when we had the spoiler-free review, I was leaning more towards a 7, and I think that's definitely where I've landed more. And I think in my mind the baseline, or not the baseline, but like the average, I think this movie should probably sit at like a 7.25 maybe.
Yeah.
Like between a 7 and a 7.5.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's,
and I think that's fair.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I want to be.
And see,
you know,
the reason, because like I gave it a higher score before because I wanted to like stand behind this movie,
exactly.
because it represented you know, my perspective on this trilogy and what it has been, you know, like I didn't like where The Last Jedi went, and I was hoping, you know, that was a Rian Johnson mistake and not the trilogy's plan, because then the entire trilogy was just gonna, you know, follow that same direction that I personally didn't like. And then for this one to go against that and be, trying to tell JJ's story.
Undoing the things that you didn't like.
Exactly. I had to kind of stand behind that. Yeah. But, that being said now, there were, like, some... And none of this is necessarily true. There's sort of rumored sources.
And so, yeah, that's
regarding
kind of
how much Disney...
How much
was meddling.
Did you read it?
Yeah. And so, how much Disney was meddling and changing things and had such a tight leash on JJ.
That's kind of what I wanted to talk about.
And I wonder if, despite The Last Jedi, if JJ could have made this movie even better.
I think he could have
had Disney's,
and so we're kind of going into
less.
rumor and anonymous leak territory, but and so there's a lot of speculation and rumors going around, obviously, but one of the things is that there's an edit out there similar to how people have been crying out for the Snyder Cut, is that there's a cut of this movie that's 3 hours long. That's the one that JJ approved. And so reading kind of this, like what I had sent you, is that there's a lot of things that JJ disagreed with Disney and like the higher ups, and like there's been like even the actors have been outspoken about this. Oscar Isaac was pretty frustrated with the Poe and Finn situation. Like, he seemed to be rooting for it, and
he called out Disney specifically, and not JJ.
And JJ
allegedly was fighting for it.
He seems to be for it, and so like that's just one example. Like in this leaked whatever anonymous report, I guess anonymous leak.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what I'd call it. I don't even know if there's any credibility to
legit,
it at all.
Who knows? But according to it, like, JJ was against the whole bit with Rey and Kylo at the end. Like, it seems like, and this is kind of like hopeful for me, is because it honestly felt like everything that I had problems with in this movie was what Disney changed.
Yeah.
And like that makes me frustrated, and like I don't know. It's weird because I don't know. I really don't know how to feel about it. Like,
yeah. And that's why I feel a little bit okay, like, and that's the thing, is that my review is always, anything I say about this is to be taken with a grain of salt.
Yeah, and we're always changing our opinions. We're always thinking about it and constructing
because
new thoughts about it.
I support JJ like severely.
Yeah.
Lots of the,
especially if this report is true.
Yeah.
I back him 100%.
Yeah, and like I think that after we finish up with like these rumor stuffs, we'll try and get on a little bit more of a structured kind of go through.
Maybe
just because
we're
kind of bouncing all over the place. We're kind of all over the place. It's just kind of like talking rumors and stuff.
Yeah.
But just some things to say on that are that like JJ seemed to be like battling with the brass almost the whole time.
Yeah.
If this report is to be believed.
And also like another thing with this is that he was battling with the Last Jedi.
Yeah.
It confirmed something that we, and I feel a lot of other people, have thought for a long time. Again, if it's true, like, it said that he was not happy where that movie went.
Yeah.
And not that it's not known now, because if you've seen this movie, obviously he did not agree with that.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of shots.
Yeah. And then the way you put it is just, it's the best way, it's the best way I've heard it put, is that this trilogy is a cinematic boxing match between two writer-directors. Yeah. But the caveat to that is that the referee has been bribed and is Disney and is impartial and is, making bad calls and really the one making the decisions and directing.
Well, yeah, they're really the ones in the
boxing
in the end
match is going to go.
Who wins and like what happens.
Exactly.
So
like you know, it's such a mess, this entire trilogy, and that's what's so sad about it, is that this is the canonical ending to the characters that we love, and I have a hard time like kind of believing that. I never read a whole lot into the expanded universe, the original expanded universe. I don't know why we never got into it. We just didn't. But
we didn't like reading. I think.
Yeah, we're just not we're not very literate people.
I mean, we are, but like it's
But you know, I really want to look into that because you know, like it seems like a more faithful representation of the characters that you love.
And a lot more almost like respectful.
Yeah.
Kind of just like the word that's coming to my mind is wholesome, but I don't think that's what it is. Is not wholesome in the fact that it's like feel good, but whole. Like it's full.
Yeah.
You know? And like I don't know.
Because it's
careful and it
like, because this trilogy is clearly so many mistakes were made.
Yes.
Like having different writer directors for each movie,
first mistake,
big mistake. You know, having Disney meddle in this stuff without like
and it could be argued that the first mistake is thinking that they could continue this series.
Yeah.
Because in the end, are you really gonna ever finish it better than Return of the Jedi?
Yeah. And like that's what I was thinking. That's what I was going into this movie. There's no way this movie can conclude things better than a Return of the Jedi without just sort of being a pointless rehash, which it now sort of is. It just is. The darkness comes back, the light beats them, and then we're back where we started again. And then 20 years down the line, Daisy Ridley will be an old mentor who, for some reason, hates her life and banished herself to an island. Like, it's gonna keep like going, and that's why one of my speculative things was that a really clean place to end this trilogy would have been to go the route of the Grey Jedi, which seems to be this hidden secret meaning to all of Star Wars. Everywhere you look, it seems like
seems like that is the balance.
Exactly.
You know?
The balance of the Force isn't
between
defeating
bad
the Sith
guys and good guys.
Or defeating the good guys, because even if you defeat the so-called bad guys, that's not a balance.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, and that's
a
kind of
true
what
balance is like what George R.R. Martin is always saying.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the true fight between good and evil is in the heart of each and every character.
Yeah.
And so for Rey and or Kylo to have found Grey Jedi, you know, to have realized, oh, the Force is just the Force, you know, it's not so much good, it's not so much bad. The Jedi were like that's the thing, is that Obi-Wan always says only the Sith deal in absolutes, but the Jedi Order deals in absolutes too.
Yeah.
You know, like it's all extremes. Instead, you know, Kylo Ren and like I think Quinlan Vos might have been one of the other ones. They're so powerful because and Mace Windu, because they use just the Force, you know, and it sends a better message generally as well, because you know you can't just banish your negative emotions. That's not healthy, and that's what the Jedi do. And you also can't give in to your most vicious desires, and that's what the Sith do. So you have to find a balance.
I think had that been the point, if that had been the point of this sequel trilogy, I think that would have made everything really interesting.
It would have given everything an actual purpose.
And it would have, because then you can go back and you look at the prequels and you go, okay, well, like, although they were fighting for good and they were doing these things all in, like, they had the right idea in mind, the Jedi were still wrong.
Yeah.
You know? And like you can look at that, and I feel like whoever, like, whether it was JJ or whoever was doing these movies, I don't know whether, like, if Disney wouldn't allow it, but it felt like this whole time they've been dancing around it.
Even in the Last Jedi. Like,
it felt like they were dancing around it.
Rian Johnson seemed to be coming very close.
I think,
and like,
looking back, I think that might have been by accident. Like, honestly, but and that's the thing. Even Kylo Ren, like, that guy's, his whole thing was that he was torn between, and maybe had that been his realization is and that's why he was so powerful always, I thought.
Yeah.
Is because he was the mix of both, you know?
Exactly.
And in this movie you see Rey use Force lightning, you know?
Yeah.
Like something that we've exclusively only seen Sith do in the movies.
Yeah.
And so like
and Rey,
I feel like had they come to that, it would have been
I like
pretty clean.
Yeah, and I like the general message that they took in this movie, which was, you know, with and I don't know if we mentioned this yet, but this is very spoiler heavy.
We'll
so
put something at the beginning.
Spoiler alert here. But with Rey being a Palpatine, they kind of went for this message, and a lot of people aren't liking the whole "I'm Rey Skywalker" thing. But you know, I was kind of fine with it.
I understand the message behind it, and I understand what they were trying to do. I just don't know if I love it, and we got pretty heated talking about it.
But anyways, I just wanted to
go on what you're
just that like. The message was, you know, Rey was born into a family of evil, but that doesn't define who she is, you know? Like, what Luke says is there are things stronger than blood, you know? And that's why she said, you know, I'm Rey Skywalker, because, you know, that's the family she chose, you know? And that's why I liked seeing the ghost there. Kylo should have been there as well, or Ben Solo.
A lot of people should have been there.
Ben should have been there when she looked in the desert and saw those two, I think. But, like... She's choosing that family instead of, you know, like giving in to who she was born to, because nobody is a slave to like what they're born into. You can always choose your own path, and you know, like you can be who you can be a good person even if your parents or your grandfather wasn't a great person, you know? Like you get to choose your own path, and that was kind of the perfect setup, other than like Kylo as well, for Grey Jedi, because all this whole time she's been torn between light and dark. Same as Kylo. Like she was born into evil but was drawn to good, but still like couldn't let go of her frustrations and of her past, and that wasn't bad.
They were kind of reversed.
You know? Yeah.
He was born into good and was pulled this way a bit.
So they both experienced either side, and you know, the light side always seems to be this extreme of like, you know, you can't ever have negative feelings because negative feelings are bad, but that's just not true. Negative feelings are part of life, and so like
it would have. I think it would have just made the trilogy as a whole. I said it already.
Yeah.
I think it would have made it fit because when I touched on it, I talked about the prequels. When you look at the original trilogy, Luke beat Vader by just raging out.
Yeah.
You know? Like, and that's there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
You know? And because
he caught himself before he did
took
anything.
It too far.
Yeah.
You know? And that's the thing, is you too far on either side is bad. And he caught himself, and he ultimately took the moral way out, you know?
Yeah.
Which seems to be the ultimate Jedi way, the high ground way. But yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of just sad to me that this entire like rehash of Star Wars seems to have in the end been kind of pointless.
Yes.
You know, because it just like the bad came back, it just ended the same way that like Return of the Jedi did, essentially.
Well, all the bad guys are gone. There's a good guy.
There's a celebration, you know, and so
there wasn't even really a celebration though.
There were no Ewoks.
There was 2 Ewoks.
There were 2 Ewoks.
Wicket and his son.
Yeah, I like that little touch.
Played by Warwick Davis and his son.
I like that. And
nice.
So like, you know, there's so much brokenness about this, but I still enjoyed the general, you know, story of the film. The character interactions were really good. You know, there were callbacks to the original trilogy and to The Force Awakens. You know, like it was good, as good storytelling as it could be with all the constraints, and that's why I still like it. You know, I speak ill of it, and that's why like I'm never gonna say that this movie was good and that I like it for no reason, because I don't love it necessarily. It's like it's very flawed, and I'll never dismiss that. I recognize that it's flawed for reasons beyond JJ's
Well, and
control.
as long as
and
you
that he did a pretty damn good job of making it coherent despite all of his constraints.
Well, and see, as long as you can vocalize and put your thoughts into words and express why you thought it was good, and you don't just say it was good. It was good because I didn't expect what happened, or it was good because fan service. Like, if you
and we're not saying that every person who likes The Last Jedi says that or has those opinions. That's just something that we've experienced, is that no one has yet been able to articulate to us why they like it.
Yeah,
and
anytime we have
if you're offended by that, I'm
conversation.
sorry. Tell us in the comments. Like, yell at us. Tell us why
don't
The Last
yell
Jedi is good.
No, well, don't yell at us, but as we just said, we want to have a constructive conversation about it, you know?
Yeah.
And see that, yeah, that's kind of the thing, is the only people that we've experienced about that is angry people who say, you're wrong, it doesn't matter because I'm right.
Exactly.
You know, and no one expresses their thoughts. And I think that's kind of the thing that Star Wars fans as a whole need to come to understand, is that
your opinion,
you're
always entitled to your opinion.
You can always have your opinion, but so can everyone else.
Yeah, and listen to other people.
And that's the thing.
Be willing to challenge your own view on things.
Yeah, and like because whether you liked it or you hated it, if you're in an argument with someone, talk about it. Figure out why they liked it. Figure out why they hated it, because then maybe your view will change on it.
Yeah.
You know? And that's kind of what we've been talking about in the thing, is that our feelings change, and we wouldn't be fair reviewers if we were to just go, oh, this was great, or I didn't like it, you know? More so, oh, I love this is great, and just take everything at face value and just say, it's Star Wars, so it's great, you know? If we are to like this movie, if we don't challenge ourselves, we're no better than the people that we don't, like...
Agree with,
yeah.
And so, yeah, that's... it's kind of all over the place. We got to get better at kind of structuring, breaking down movies. And yeah, like you say, maybe next week's podcast will still be Star Wars. So I hope that our 7 viewers still
aren't sick of
Star Wars yet.
Is there anything else? Because I got lots of things to say about Star Wars. I don't know how long we've been going. We don't have our timer here.
Yeah, we got a new shiny.
We've got a shiny
microphone that we're trying.
Yeah, you can go. But yeah, like
we're only at 33, so we can
we can go a little more. Yeah, everyone in Star Wars, not in Star Wars, but like the fan base, and even, I'm not gonna call anyone out, but I saw some of an actor specifically in my head, but I think a couple of them, just the community as a whole is just so quick to just always go, my opinion's made, everyone else is wrong.
Yeah.
You know? And like everyone's so defensive.
Yeah.
Is kind of how it is. You're like, yeah, they
I know the feeling.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
like we grew up, we loved the prequels, and there was sort of an age where, you know, we finally were old enough to sort of start hearing other opinions, you know, and I remember it being really sort of challenging for me to realize that the prequels were not necessarily good movies. You know, like we grew up, like we were little kids when those movies came out, and so we were like, oh, lightsaber battles, blasters, monsters, aliens, you know, and so we really loved those movies. Like, and, you know, when we got older, you know, we were like, what? Those movies aren't good? That doesn't make sense. You're wrong. Those movies are great.
Yeah.
But then, you know, you grow up, you watch those movies, you actually... You know, consider that you could be wrong, and we were wrong about that.
Exactly. And
you know,
and
we'll still always love the prequels, but we'll never say that they're flawless movies that have good dialogue or even plot lines.
We're always willing to constructively break things down. You know, like that, and that's I think why it took me a while to figure out, and and it still is taking me a while to figure out how I feel about this movie, because it's a lot. It's a lot, and it does a lot. There's a lot of things in it, you know.
Yeah.
And I need to see it again to have more feelings about it, to see what I liked for sure, and see if some of the things that I disagreed with are valid, you know, and like, yeah, and because it goes back to kind of what I was saying, is that we're not gonna. I don't feel that we would ever be credible reviewers or people even talking about movies if we weren't willing to challenge our opinions about it, or think about, well, I liked it, but is it actually good, you know? That's kind of been a question of Star Wars lately, you know. The first time we watched The Last Jedi, we kind of just were like,
yeah, we just kind of looked over at each other
because it wasn't sitting right. And then I saw it again, and I just went, you know what, the feeling, I had that for a reason.
Yeah.
I see now the things that I didn't like. I like, you know. Yeah. And again, our personal opinions, but yeah. So, and we'll get away from kind of the how we feel.
Yeah.
We'll like just kind
of hop back into
the
Rise
movie
of
itself,
Skywalker stuff, because this is just sort of, you know, more broad stuff about movies generally, but it's a little bit more close to home with the Star Wars movies, because
it's just all it's been.
The Last Jedi, like, it really it almost changed how I watch movies, you know, because like I was naive before that movie, because, you know, I didn't really believe that a franchise that I liked could make a bad movie.
Yeah, and you just kind of had that thought that the people knew what they were doing.
Yeah,
you know,
and then all of a sudden you realize that they didn't. You know, like, and like, I remember just initially when the Disney acquisition happened. I remember generally sort of being like, that's not right. Like, Star Wars doesn't belong at Disney. Yeah. But then when new movies were coming out, since I wasn't familiar with the expanded universe, I was like, oh, well, this is going to be good because it's Star Wars and this is a continuation of the story.
Yeah.
But when in fact these people that don't care about Star Wars, the people at the higher ups at Star Wars don't care about Star Wars.
The overlords.
I think that JJ cares about it severely. I think that even in his own way, Rian Johnson cares about it severely. Sometimes it seems like he might be a little bit more of a lapdog. But, you know, it seems like
everyone has their own relationship with these movies. And
I think that Kathleen Kennedy's relationship with these movies you are the cow that I milk to get money. And I don't think she necessarily cares. Like, some of the things she says are just factually incorrect.
Yeah.
She said, like, oh, these movies are hard to make because we don't have novels to draw on.
Yikes.
Like, that's just a complete lie, and just so disrespectful to all the people who loved the EU.
That she erased.
That she erased. Yeah. Well, not her specifically, but that new Star Wars,
and I think
executives
part of that is
decided to wipe clean.
You look at how Star Wars, and obviously it's not fair to compare these two, but you look at how Star Wars is running and you look at how Marvel's running. Kevin Feige has his hands in everything. He knows what's going on. He knows the story. He knows the plan.
Yeah.
Whereas Kathleen Kennedy is like, as it seems, we don't know her. If for whatever reason she's one of our 4 viewers this week, sorry, but like, prove me wrong, is that she just kind of seems like she's making these decisions to make money.
Yeah.
You know, is what will I do that will make the most
what
money?
Will keep our brand safe, what will sell the most merchandise, you know,
exactly.
And that seems like,
and so what
it's kind of you can see that bleeding through, you know, like Rey's character, I liked her at first. The Last Jedi, she seemed just like, you know, she succeeded at everything for no reason. She made mistakes and didn't pay for them.
Yeah.
She was this flawless.
And it wasn't just her though. It was
lots of characters.
Anyone.
Just
you know?
Any character in that show.
That's just not a good.
The
character
good guys
trait.
were just flawless.
Yes.
And, you know, made mistakes but still won.
Exactly.
You know, and
that's goes against the whole idea of Star Wars itself, kind of. You know, and because that's what was in the original trilogy.
Yeah.
Luke made a mistake. He chose wrong, and he paid for it.
Yeah, and then
you know?
in this movie, Rey makes the same mistake, but she walks away
Perfectly
as the
fine.
complete victor
Exactly.
of the situation.
And I think that I don't really know what the message to take from that is.
And then, like, in Rise of Skywalker, I started to like her again. The conflict within her was much more prominent and seemed much more well done.
Yeah, people...
But then, even like then, in the end, she essentially single-handedly defeated Palpatine. Like, she drew on the power of the Jedi past, which I like that. But, you know, I might have liked for Kylo Ren to have done more in that situation.
I would have liked for him to have done more, yeah.
Because, you know... She didn't have to do it alone, and I think that it would have been powerful for her to not do it alone.
Yeah,
because like she draws on the power of the Jedi, and I guess she wasn't necessarily doing it alone because she had the power of the Jedi. But
going back
like,
to our
it's all
our
like
report,
my thoughts are still kind of formulating with all of
the
this, but it just it seems like for her to kind of just make it through all of this, you know. As sort
unchallenged.
of this unchallenged and like not necessarily. I liked what they did with her character a lot more in this
me too.
movie,
which is pretty easy to say.
Yeah, but like
the character,
you know,
character development.
It seemed, especially what I was kind of trying to build to here, was that it seems like, you know, they're afraid to tarnish their characters.
Yes. Yeah.
And like to tarnish Rey's reputation by having her maybe dip somewhat into the dark.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like in The Last Jedi, sure, she went into like this like weird butthole and snapped her fingers in front of a mirror.
Of mirrors.
But that doesn't really mean anything. That didn't mean anything. That didn't mean you're bad.
And it had nothing to do with
then
bad.
Right after that left to go and try and save Ben. You know, she didn't delve into the darker part of herself. Honestly, and in this one she did, and that's why I liked it.
Yes,
because she was just this flawless, you know, kind of yogurt character in The Last Jedi, and that's why I appreciated what this movie did with her character a lot more, because she was flawed. She was actually a human. That's what this movie really succeeded to do, was create human characters. Like Poe Dameron was a human again. Finn was a human.
It reminded me why I liked these characters in the first movie.
All their interactions were awesome. They were people again. In The Last Jedi, they didn't feel like people. They were just drones doing whatever the Queen Rian Johnson. It was Rian
Johnson playing with his toys.
Yeah, exactly. And
like, Luke Skywalker's evil now. Hi-yah! You know?
Yeah, and so like this movie was, again, I think I said this in our review, was the characters driving the story, not the story driving the characters. Yep. Because in the Last Jedi, characters seemed kind of weird and cardboard because they had to act a certain way to serve Rian Johnson's plot and ending.
Yeah.
Whereas in this one, it seemed like the characters were doing things because that's the thing that those characters would want to do in that situation.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what I'll always appreciate about this, is that this movie was written well, despite not really making any sense. It was it looks like it was done by a professional, whereas The Last Jedi does not look that way.
Yeah,
unfortunately. Like I'm trigger warning here.
Yeah,
but like
if you haven't realized that we don't like that movie by now, I don't really.
We're not really gonna tiptoe around it that much anymore, because you know we're not shoving it in your face and saying this is the way. But you know, I'm also not going to hold back my opinions on that, because
and I think that's
I
kind
don't
of
agree
a fair
with
place to be now. At least after this newest movie's come out. Clearly, JJ didn't like it,
and so it's safe for us to not like it.
and
because his movie,
some people won't like that. And again, if you are one of those people, tell us why, please.
Yeah. Please. Yeah, please tell. We're open to your opinions.
Yes, we would very much like to hear about it.
That's the thing, is that what would have made this entire trilogy like an insanely resounding success was if we watched The Rise of Skywalker and The Last Jedi all of a sudden was like, it made sense, and it
Yeah,
you know,
that was the one thing.
All of a sudden we like The Last Jedi, but obviously The Last Jedi was a misstep because this movie undid it.
Yes.
You know, and that's one of my favorite scenes in this movie was when she went back to the island and saw Luke.
Yeah.
Because the first thing he says is he catches the lightsaber that Rian Johnson made him throw over the edge and says, a Jedi's weapon deserves more respect.
Yeah.
Which is just such a blow to Rian Johnson.
Yeah, like if you don't see that as a shot to him, I don't really know what you would need to take. Like, you know, like if that's not what would it take for you in that situation?
Yeah, exactly.
Luke's toilet with Rian Johnson's face on it, like that is absolutely a shot taken at Rian Johnson, you know? And so like,
and I don't know. Like that whole Luke felt like Luke again.
Yes.
Like I could picture Luke from the original trilogy saying all of those things, which just like it was such a breath of fresh air, and I loved it. I loved watching Mark Hamill get to play the Luke Skywalker that he likes once again.
Yeah.
Because he is another person who very much disagreed with The Last Jedi. And so like I love that scene for Mark Hamill and for J.J. Abrams to get to sort of vindicate that character and that, you know, that situation and how what I might call misstep in that character. It's almost a retcon, you know. It's not really a retcon because he killed him and he has to now just be a ghost that regrets what he did.
Yeah.
But it does, you know, it shows that had JJ had this trilogy, Luke would have been better, or at least Luke would have been different. You know, better in my opinion, different.
And see, the thing is
I
going into The Last Jedi, I kind of thought that Luke might die. The way they did it, though, like, you know, and see, that's the thing, is that the argument of you didn't like it because it wasn't what you wanted. Going into that movie, I was okay with Luke dying.
Yeah. So
you can't tell me that that's why I didn't like it, you know?
It was the manner in which things happened.
You can't slap him about and say, Luke Skywalker's dead.
Yeah.
You know? Like, that's just a
and
waste.
He didn't even get slapped about.
No, he didn't.
He projected himself.
He pooped
and then
in his
died for
pants
no
and died on a rock. Like, I'm honestly surprised that tweet hasn't come out, J.K. Rowling style. We can't talk about her anymore either. But, like, they haven't amended it, be like, actually, Luke exerted himself so hard that he pooped a little.
Yeah.
Like I'm surprised Rian Johnson hasn't tweeted that.
I don't know what Rian Johnson's problem is with Luke Skywalker's character.
I know.
You know, like it seems like he cares so little about it, and just like it almost seems like he deliberately hates it and wants to do everything
He's the guy that like watched the original trilogy. He's like, you know what this needed? More Bib Fortuna.
Wow.
And it's just like, why? Why would you ever need that? I don't know, but you got this weird grudge against Luke Skywalker for some reason. So
it just, I don't know. I feel like this isn't where we were gonna go with this podcast.
We're kind of going all over.
We always end up yelling about Rian Johnson whenever we talk about the new trilogy.
I think the next podcast will be very much in depth in the Rise of Skywalker, theories, thoughts we had, what some things might mean.
Yeah.
Explained, if you will.
Yeah.
You know? But two things I had. One, that made me very angry in that report that we talked about earlier, is that allegedly the Force ghosts were supposed to be there at the end.
Yeah.
And that enrages me.
Because that's something that we should have said in our speculation one, because we had this theory.
Yeah.
That something that would be really cool to happen, since there were clearly, you know, with Palpatine, there were clearly people coming back for this movie, you know, from the dead or in Force Ghost form. We had this speculation that what if all sorts of Jedi and all sorts of Sith came back and had a Force Ghost fight.
Yeah, and then for them to almost do that in the movie, and then to find out later in a report that all those guys were in costume and filmed a scene there, just to be taken out and put in the stars.
Like, why wouldn't you show them?
That makes me so
Why wouldn't you show them? How pumped would people be? Like, this is it, man.
Yeah.
This is the last second.
Like, and especially to me is, again, not to compare the two, but as far as you're concerned, this is the end of Star Wars.
Yeah. So pull out all the stops.
Endgame it.
Exactly.
And I don't care. Give me a giant fight.
Yeah, that's what I don't understand is that the ending seemed kind of like lackluster, kind of disappointing with Rey just kind of like she brings up the two lightsabers and that's cool, but it's not really enough for me to be like I'm satisfied,
like,
you know? She blows
away.
Like,
oh, cool.
That guy.
What else?
Yeah,
you
exactly.
Know? Like cool, man, but like
because I got really excited when I heard all the different voices. I was like, that was Liam Neeson.
Yeah.
Holy crap, you know? But
Obi-Wan's
if he had been there,
oh my god.
like, I would have lost my mind in the theater. And that might have been enough for me to have just said, you know, for that scene alone, 10 out of 10.
Exactly.
Greatest thing that's ever happened because it ties up everything. This is not just a trilogy. This is a, what is it, 9? You know, 9 main installments. So a nonology.
I don't know what the...
I think it's Nunna.
Nunna?
Not Nunna. None of your business.
None of your business.
A nonology, maybe.
I don't know if that's true.
I don't think that's right.
You might have just made it up.
Yeah, who knows?
Nunology.
Nunology. The study of nuns. Whoops.
Of course.
But anyways, it just...
Oh yeah. And so yeah, that made me very upset. And if that becomes something that's like, people start rooting for the Abrams cut like they want the Snyder cut, you can count me being one of those people that will be rooting for that. Because if this report is true, I absolutely want to see that cut.
Yeah.
And one of the things that it said at the end of it was that cut exists.
Yeah.
And if they prefaced it with, we will probably never see it. But I want to see it.
What I don't understand is that, like, J.J. Abrams directed this movie. Is that incorrect?
He did, didn't he?
I think so,
I'm
but
pretty sure.
With what that report says, you know, he was surprised when he saw some of these scenes. But it's like,
I think that
you were there. You recorded, like, you were there for those scenes, weren't you? But I think maybe those were scenes that he was forced to record by Disney, or like.
And I think, again, this is all if this is true. I think it was the editing of it, and it, like, obviously maybe he, like, these are things that Disney made him film, whatever. I don't know how that worked, but I think it was mostly just the fact that this isn't the version of the movie I approve.
Yeah.
You know, like, to anyone that would be shocking.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And another problem I had was they didn't follow up with what Finn wanted to say to her. According to this report, that was covered in Abrams' cut, because it would be.
Yeah.
He doesn't just dangle things for no reason.
Yeah. Some
people might say he does, but given this movie, it doesn't seem like he just dangles things for no reason.
Yeah.
You know?
And, you know, like, if you don't know, the alleged thing that Finn was going to say was that he's force sensitive, and he was actually going to move like a latch with his mind.
Yeah.
Instead of BB-8 unlocking it.
Yeah, that was allegedly CGI'd in afterwards.
Yeah. And so, because the whole movie, he has all this intuition into, you know, where people are and what things are supposed to be doing what.
Which doesn't necessarily make a ton of sense for this trilogy as a whole, but in this movie exclusively, I can see how he would be maybe.
Yeah, and like I don't think that any of the other movies necessarily ruled it out.
Yeah.
And so for him, like, but it was a lot of things in this movie were kind of out of nowhere, because this was J.J. Abrams essentially making 7, 8, and 9. His 8 and 9, you know, because he had to kind of discount The Last Jedi, and so Finn's force sensitivity.
Half of what his 8 would have been was in the first 5 minutes of this movie.
Yeah, and like that's another thing that, like, in this movie, all of a sudden Luke's like, yeah, and then on the last day of Leia's training, it was like, whoa, hey, slow down. Yeah. Leia's training? Like, what? Where did that come from, my man? And like, that CGI scene, how do you feel about that? Luke looked pretty good.
I need to look
Something
at it again.
about Carrie Fisher being CGI recreated.
For whatever reason, they can't get her right.
Yeah. Luke looked pretty good. And both of them were, like, maybe just the tiniest bit off. I don't know what it is.
I need to see it again.
I think
they tried to cover it with their helmets.
Yeah.
Because they were pretty thin.
Yeah, I don't know. They looked... I don't know. they almost looked like a really good video game version of them, as opposed to a realistic looking young version of them.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? It was almost like really good CGI, but didn't look like reality quite
Yeah.
quite yet.
I don't
you know,
know
it's just
I don't
that
know.
sort
I
of
have to
trick
look
that
at
your
it again.
brain, like your brain all of a sudden goes stupid, like with the uncanny valley.
Yeah,
Like,
I'll have
and
to
I- and,
see.
like,
I'll have to look at that
It
again.
looks good, but it's just something is not quite right.
Yeah, it's just like it's not quite what they looked like.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I think Luke's was good though.
Yeah, I think I've
can't
seen
remember it quite
a
right.
still of it a couple times, and Luke looked pretty good from what I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, it's confusing to me because you look at Marvel.
They just do it.
They do
to
it
show
because
off.
they can. They de-age people in every movie just because they want to.
Yeah, like
so how can you not do that?
Yeah.
At the same, you're the same company.
Yeah.
It's ask them.
Yeah.
Take your little moped, go over and say, "Hey, de-aging guys at Marvel, can you teach us your secret?"
Yeah.
You know, like.
And yeah, well, what I was kind of building to with that is that
I've got
out
something.
of nowhere, there's just like on Leia's training, it's like whoa, like that's kind of clear to me that
That's
JJ
something that
would have
JJ was gonna
explored a lot more of explored a lot of the past and kind of maybe more of Luke's order and had probably a different and better explanation to his falling out with Kylo Ren and like.
And so with that, here's a hot little scoop for you.
Oh.
Is that I read that allegedly, again, everything is allegedly, a rumor that stated Dave Filoni, who, if you don't know, he's kind of like a protege of George Lucas's. He worked on the Clone Wars. He worked on Avatar. He worked on
Avatar
the Mandalorian.
is not a Star Wars property, but that's just something.
But it's a property that he's worked on.
Yeah,
that people would be familiar with, and he worked on
the
Mandalorian.
Last Airbender.
Yeah,
by the way,
not the blue aliens. But so this is a guy that's very much in tune with Star Wars and someone that's, I think, very good for Star Wars. You know, from what from the stuff I've seen,
seems to be like very kind of just respectful of all angles of Star Wars, because Clone Wars was made when the EU was still canon, I believe, and so like for that to still remain canon.
It's kind of strange.
It's kind of strange, and means it must have done some good stuff and done a good job, because for it to essentially by proxy kind of tie in a lot of the other canon, which could be messy, for them to keep that canon, that seems like it's sort of a testament to how well.
Where I was going with that is that he is allegedly will be making a animated series, probably similar to Clone Wars or Rebels or Resistance, whatever, covering covering Luke's Jedi Order, which, if that's true, I am very excited about that.
Yeah.
And it said that Mark Hamill would probably reprise his role as Luke, and so I would be very, very happy.
That would be really good, because
and it's something that I could see them doing. They've done. It seems nowadays that they've got something in between every single movie.
Yeah.
They've got a show or a different movie in between everything. And so to have that, well, it's not even like that would be shoved in that spot where it's so packed.
Yeah.
Just with everything. But I don't know.
It would be after Return of the
Mandalorian era.
And
so to see that tie in.
Yeah.
Good
because
stuff.
it seems like, spoilers for The Mandalorian, that is where, Mando is going to end up taking Baby Yoda to his quote-unquote own kind, and they specified that doesn't mean his own species, but the Jedi. And the Jedi who exist after Return of the Jedi is Luke's new order.
Yeah, and Dave Filoni, again, has said that Mando Season 2 is going to contain many characters from the main series.
There you go.
And so that to me seems like that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like almost that they threw in the de-aged Luke and stuff into this movie just to say, hey, this exists.
Yeah.
Be on the lookout for it. like, I wouldn't be surprised if they did it in Mandalorian.
Yeah. And, it's kind of tragic because, canonically, Kylo Ren, kills all the Jedi again, so hopefully Baby Yoda made it out of there.
Yeah.
Because...
He's on Dagobah.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Because, it's obviously not confirmed that he ever ends up making it there. Like, a theory of mine is that he'll end up, using his healing powers to too much of an extreme on Mando, and then will pull a Ben Solo and give too much life force.
I think he'll either end up with Luke or end up a Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Because that would be pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
our cameras are going out.
Yeah.
I think that's everything.
Yeah, it's definitely not. But
No, well, yeah. I think that's everything for this podcast specifically.
Yeah. It's all over the place. We gotta maybe try and structure it a little bit more for next time.
We'll place some more feelings. We'll think of some theories.
Yeah. I don't know. There's just there's more things I want to touch on, like Rey's yellow lightsaber.
Yes.
Which
I sent you.
Yeah,
it's pretty yellow.
I thought maybe it was orange.
Another thing, just so in case something crazy happens, I kind of want to get out a couple ideas about it, because last time we didn't put out our ideas, and then stuff happened, and it was like, that was our idea.
Yeah.
Is just that one thing that I've seen is that it's the top chunk of her staff. It's almost identical.
Why didn't she have a glaive? Why didn't she have a staff lightsaber?
And so that's what it looks like. But then again, do you see it not be a staff?
Yes.
You do?
I think you see the bottom of it.
Okay.
Because I thought that maybe it was a staff.
Yeah.
Maybe it's attachable to the top.
Because it's identical to the top of her staff.
So maybe it clips on.
Also, when she turns on her lightsaber, it flashes blue before it turns yellow.
So do you think
it looks like it's like a rotator almost?
Yeah, it kind of looks like a gear thing.
So maybe she's got more than one kyber crystal in there. Who knows? Also, given the fact that the top looked almost identical to the bottom, to me, I was like, holy crap, is that two-sided lightsaber? Which has
one-handed,
two-handed, two-handed, double-sided, flip-handed, Dublo-handed lightsaber, which she had as Evil Rey in the cave, the double-handed, double-handle flipped lightsaber.
Oh my god.
Coming back to with that,
two-bladed.
The one-handed, two-bladed lightsaber, I was looking into some EU stuff before the movie, actually, and so when I saw it, I was like, whoa, is that was like one of the most evil lightsabers. This guy that like defected from the Jedi had it, and he was like, it's like the deadliest lightsaber ever, and the council have it, and they're like, if they're privileged, they get to go touch it. Like no one's allowed to use it. The designs are like gone or like buried away somewhere that no one will ever find them. And so I just thought that was interesting. I was just like, I wanted to get that out there because I'm like, if that's what that is, that's kind of crazy.
Because it does kind of look symmetrical.
Yes, and that's why.
And so like maybe it does come out both ends. We don't know, but
especially if she's got more than one kyber crystal.
This is the end of the trilogy. You'd think they would have showed that.
It's so curious why they just went, also check this thing out.
And then not
speculation,
and then not really like fully explore what it does and what it is. Like imagine the merch possibilities if it is two-handed. Or imagine the merch possibilities if it goes onto a glaive.
Yeah, and I almost imagine that's why they put it in there, just so that they can, when you go to Disneyland or whatever, you can be like, oh, I bought Rey's lightsaber.
Yeah, and that's why they made it yellow, is so that it's a different color.
So that's a unique thing.
And I'm not sure
how I feel about that.
I still have to actually research what yellow properly means, because sometimes it means sentinels. Yeah. Sometimes it means guardians.
The palace guards.
Palace guards, and like usually they're just like standard issue ones.
Yeah.
And so like.
But then I was just
who knows? I don't know if that's the most accurate color for her.
For her, no.
Because it's usually like they were just standard issue like palace guard ones.
What's she gonna guard?
Exactly, like she doesn't appear to have something like the legacy of the Jedi, I guess, but I might have gone for purple even,
Yeah, that's
because
what I was thinking.
you know Mace Windu, because that's a mix of
I
blue
think
and
they
red.
did. I think maybe they were like, it's not purple just because she they didn't want to maybe like
Oh,
girly.
associate the like femininity.
Yeah.
I can't say that.
Femininity.
Femininity.
Like, and again, I don't know if this is what it is, and if they did, there wouldn't be any problem with it because that's not what it means.
That wouldn't be the meaning behind it.
And,
I guess
like,
I understand.
you see that that's
misconstruing
maybe
that.
an idea that they were like, well, it
Could
can't
be.
be purple.
Could be.
But then, I don't know. I don't think that ever that would be a thought. To me, at least, I would never be like,
did you ever reboot
did
my
that?
camera?
No, I didn't, because I thought we were going to end it.
Oh.
Which we should do. And because I think that this lightsaber conversation should be continued, where it can be explored at length, and we'll do some more research this week to come back with more fun.
I was just
conclusion,
I was trying to touch on a few things that that I wanted to touch on with? That can that people can look forward to next time.
Okay.
So like the lightsaber, the Knights of Ren being virtually useless. What other things? Some of the Force abilities that were used, like teleportation and healing.
Mm-hmm.
Want to kind of look into
talk about
some maybe the EU and see how possible those things are. You know, like if you can just heal a lightsaber wound right through the belly. You know, Qui-Gon Jinn's death.
That's something that I've seen
any
a lot of people
Jedi
pretty angry about.
You know, and so that's there's a couple of
and maybe if they explain that that's a dark side power.
Yeah, maybe.
Like talk about how Palpatine and Darth Plagueis the Wise was like. He could even do this.
But then, Baby Yoda could do it. And so it's like, is it just like...
Well, Baby Yoda's kind of bad, though.
That's true. Kind of tried to strangle Cara Dune.
Yeah. And so, I think that maybe that's why they
Interesting
did that.
Things to explore. We don't know the significance, you know, canonically or expanded universe-wise regarding those Force powers. But, there was Knights of Ren... Force powers. The meme that I want to make is taking Han Solo from The Force Awakens, saying, "That's not how the Force works," with just several things, and the other one that I want to make. Maybe I'll just make it and put it on our community tab or something.
Oh, you could put it at the end of the video like Matt does. It could be our thumbnail or our end card.
I could try.
Yeah, I could make a meme in 2 seconds.
If this is coming out tomorrow, we gotta.
Yeah, we're gonna be up on.
Or rather today, because we did it. It's Saturday. We better do it now.
But I have a what if that's just you're gonna yell and it's gonna cut to black and it's the end of the podcast. So if you have anything else.
I don't think I have anything else. Obviously I have other things, but not for this podcast. We're going to have to cover it later. It took us a while to find our footing, so if you stuck around this long, thanks. We started off kind of awkward. We always do. We're working on that. Please comment. We want to talk to you people, if there are any of you. And I was looking at the wrong camera because it's off.
Yeah.
We're
wide now.
Yeah. So anyways, what's your thing?
You think Ray went and got that little Force kid that picked up the broom?
Cut the cameras.